Welcome to the Mentoring Moments, Empowering Leaders to Mentor Our Future podcast. I am Dr. Rob Wottawa and believe that through teacher and leader mentorship, we can impact our future through our influences on students. As much as we believe in the power and impact of mentorship, many shy away from this rewarding work. The goal of these episodes is to lean into the work with teachers and leaders, hear their stories, and have fun with the mentoring process.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here at Mentoring Moments. Today, we have special guest LaurenKaufman. So I'd like to introduce her. How do you turn classrooms into leadership incubators? Meet LaurenKaufman, a district leader, literacy architect, and the author of The Leader Inside, who spent over 20 years proving that teachers are the ultimate change makers, from crafting units of study to keynoting at ASCD and NCTE. Lauren's mission is clear: equip leaders and educators to lead while they teach. She's coached new teachers, designed groundbreaking professional development, and even penned chapters for George Couros and Edutopia, all fueled by her belief that literacy and leadership are inseparable. Today, we're diving into mentorship that sticks, why coaching over compliance transforms schools, and of course, whether she'd rather mentor a perfectionist CEO or a people-pleasing manager. Lauren, welcome to Mentoring Moments. How are you doing?
Hi, Rob. Well, thank you for having me here. This is so awesome that we've come to this moment in time together because we've known each other for quite some time. And I love that you're doing this. I love this for you. I'm so excited to be here. I'm honored that you asked me to be a guest because we both share a lot of the same passions. We've talked about this for many, many years now. Coaching, mentorship, leading with head and heart, with empathy, but also leading with a lot of mind and logic as well, right?
Right.
We've even written together, which was fun. A couple of years ago, I was actually revisiting that
Forgot
blog
about that.
post. Yeah, I didn't forget about it. I wouldn't forget about it. I was looking over that blog post just last night as I was reviewing some of my mentorship blog posts because I've written a lot about mentorship over the years. And most recently, I've been writing a lot about coaching. But just such a pleasure to be here with you today. We're in the heart of summer here in Long Island, New York. Midsummer, but
100%.
it's going fast. It's really
It
going fast.
is. It is, and it's funny that you mentioned that because we reflect back and you're right. It's been many, many years pre-COVID, so you're talking probably 6 or 7 years. It's been some time, maybe even longer than that.
I think
It's
longer. I think we've known each other longer than that, actually. I do remember talking to you pre and post and
wow.
now. And I love seeing the trajectory of your career and mine, where we've been, where we are, where we're going. It's always fun to stay connected to good people
Right.
in this space in education.
Yeah, we've shared a lot of mentoring moments together, helping each other move through the challenges of leadership and going into that position. So let's talk about our philosophies together. So thank you again so much for being here. You talk about your permission slip concept, right? And how would you help? How does that concept help teachers or leaders release that guilt of, or how to mentor someone who doesn't even realize that they're burning out of their career? So I know you've worked a lot with teachers over the years. So how do we help people get out of that they don't realize that they're burning out?
Well, I think what's important for me to start with and to frame this conversation is that the trajectory of my career has really been a beautiful gift because I've served in so many roles, from classroom teacher to middle school and elementary literacy specialist to instructional coach to assistant principal and now a district leader. And why I mention that is within all the roles I've served in, I've had an opportunity to be mentored and have, crossed paths with many, many people throughout my career who have really given me that gift of mentorship. And when I look at mentorship, I think about not just a formal mentor, but every interaction and every conversation we have on our journey as an opportunity to learn and to grow, both the favorable and unfavorable experiences. So we don't necessarily need to have that formal mentor, although I was gifted with a beautiful mentor when I started in education, when I was a new teacher. And I remember reaching out to her constantly, and we're still connected. I actually mentioned her in my book. Now I have a mentor. Of course, Linda Roth is my biggest mentor. She was my fourth grade teacher. She retired as an assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction. And we talk every day. As a matter of fact, I'm going to visit her next week upstate. So
that's awesome.
So it shows you, she wrote in my book too. We have a chapter together in my book. So we have a very unique and special relationship. So the reason I bring that up is mentorship could start at a very young age. Linda Roth, who was my fourth grade teacher, was mentoring me from a very young age. She saw things in me that I didn't see in myself. I was a timid little girl in class. I was actually a struggling reader at times, but she really lifted me up. She really built me up because, we can burn out even as kids, right? We talk about teachers burning out. We could burn out as human beings if we don't believe in ourselves, right?
That's right.
So one of the best investments that districts can make with mentorship is that to think about how you can place people in the paths of not only your new teachers, but your seasoned teachers and your more veteran teachers who can accelerate their growth and build leadership within them. I think that's really important, that we have to understand that at every level within an organization, there are leaders. If we are in education, we are leaders for kids. And we need to keep everybody from burning out. I know you mentioned teachers before, but the students come first. The students are at the heart of everything we do. So yes, how can we keep our teachers from burning out so our students burn out? Our teachers have to have that light burning within, so the students can have that magical lantern lighting up within them. And that lantern, whoever is going to help guide them with that light, is going to continue to burn, right? And even if it dims a little bit sometimes, it could be relit by somebody else or by that person. The key is how do we cultivate this ability in people to see that within themselves, because it has to come from within, right? So we want to place people in our path that get people to see it in themselves, and so that they can be proactive and they can initiate, and then they can pay it forward to other people in the future. And that's what keeps it going. The pay it forward model is what we want. That's going to keep burnout, because the cycle can keep burnout from happening, because that's how the cycle continues, right? Experienced educators guide new teachers. They guide all teachers, and they strengthen the whole community, really.
Right. I mean, I love how you talk about pay it forward. One of the things that I have been thinking about recently is like mentoring in the middle. How we have teachers that are new, they're excited, they have that growth mindset. And then as they move into their career around year 10 or so, they start to kind of maybe lose that fire that you're talking about. And then we have to get them to be fired on about, you're a leader, you're a master teacher, and how do we get them to now pay it forward to the younger teachers? And one of the things that I'm always curious about is if we tap some of those people to then mentor the new teachers, then maybe they get re-inspired to be great educators themselves. Because at the end of the day, like you said, we need them to be on fire because we don't want to burn the kids out, so important. So that's a great idea. And then talks about moving into that kind of hard work and that virtue. So you talk about productivity isn't a virtue, right? So how would you mentor, or how should you frame hard work for proteges in your work when you're working with teachers and leaders, of course?
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great question, because I think that sometimes people say the harder you work and the more productive you are, the more productivity you have, the better you are, when that's not really true. I think that it all starts with your what and your why, going back to your core. What is your purpose? Why are you here? Very often at the beginning of the year when I have department meetings or lead new teacher mentor meetings and things like that, which I'm doing again this summer with a group of new teachers, I always start with, why do you teach? You could do the same thing with leaders. Why do you lead? If you're doing an admin retreat or something. I think that's a great question to come back to all the time, because your purpose will probably remain steadfast, right, within you. It'll probably be the same. Your core is who you are, but your purpose and your why can evolve over time based on your experiences, based on external things that happen, based on where you are at the moment. So it's not necessarily your core beliefs are the thread to all of this. And what I want to say about mentorship too is it's not a program. Although we have programs in our districts, and
Right.
I was lucky to lead one of the mentorship programs in a prior district I worked in. It's a culture. It's not a program, right? It's the culture
Right.
we create within. So that emerges through intentional support, shared learning, and connection. Connection and relationships are the heart of everything we do.
Yes.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No. So as you were talking, I was thinking about one of the things that when I work with new teachers specifically, and it kind of is something that I've taken from John Maxwell. You talked about working harder, right? And sometimes working harder, we feel like, oh, if you work hard, you're doing well. John Maxwell talks about working in your strength zones, right? So when I work with new teachers, I talk about what is something that you're really good at, what is something that you really enjoy, and let's focus 80% of our time on that. This way we can build more tools, build things quickly, and then about 15%, let's learn some new things, and then about 5% on what our weaknesses are. The concept of like, if I spend all my time on my weaknesses, I'm never going to move forward in the things that I'm good at. So, to your point, don't work so hard, like that's tremendous. And it's a culture and relationships. I mean, I can't speak to that more than you. We all know how important relationships are. So yeah, that's 100%. So what were you going to say? Because I kind of cut you off there.
Oh, no, that's okay. I love that Maxwell stuff. I actually read High Road to Leadership, one of his newer books, and I think it's great. You were reminding me of this quote that I found this morning from Ryan Holiday. He's one of my favorite authors, and I read his book, The Obstacle is the Way. I've read many of his books. It's a book that I always go back to. That you always have like these books that we go back to, we
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
revisit. But he
Yes.
actually wrote this morning, I'm going to read this to you. He put this post out. He says, it takes real confidence and courage to put yourself out there, to say those magic, humble words, I don't know, to say instead, tell me more, to ask, what else do I need to know? And when I saw that and I knew we were having a conversation this morning, I said, oh, I need to screenshot that. I'll somehow work it into my writing probably next week because I already put
That's
out
awesome.
my post this week.
Right.
But you brought up Maxwell, so I said, oh, now I'll bring up Holiday. I think as a new teacher or a seasoned teacher or a veteran teacher, look, we are in a landscape of education right now that is quickly changing with technology, with different priorities and initiatives that are at the forefront. We're preparing students for future ready types of skills for jobs and experiences that we don't even know exist at this
Right.
time.
Right.
So I think even our seasoned and veteran teachers, they've become new teachers again. A lot of our veteran teachers are saying, oh my gosh, Lauren, I feel like a new teacher again. And it's almost like I'm constantly thinking about that. Like we need to have these, we talk about mentor programs for the new teachers, but what about our seasoned, the people in the middle and our veteran teachers who are trying to stay up to date with everything and try to keep what they already know and what works, because there's nothing wrong with tradition and past practice. We want to still do those things that work that we believe in, but technology is moving quickly. We're in an AI driven world right now too. How do we support those teachers in the process? I've had teachers come to me who have been doing this for years that say, Lauren, I feel like I'm failing. I feel like I've been doing this for over a couple of decades, and I don't know what I'm doing anymore because there's a new program or a new technology, or there's a new digital platform and they're trying to learn it. So I think we need to think about that too when we're talking about mentorship, is really tapping in. I mean, years ago when I ran the mentor program, I still think about that concept of reverse mentorship, where you're looking at the mentee is also mentoring the mentor, because a lot of our newer teachers are bringing skills to us also that we don't know about as seasoned and veteran educators. So I think we have to keep open minds with that too, and thinking about when we are mentoring people, look at the mentees as people to learn from as well. Everybody, we talked earlier, everybody has a gift inside of them to share with the world, but it takes a special person to recognize those gifts and celebrate those gifts, put those people out there where they need to be and say, ooh, you're really good at this specific technology platform, or you're really good at this instructional approach. We need to get you out there so we can cross-pollinate these ideas and learn together. As George Couros would say, we learn with people, for people, and about people. And we need to keep that at the heart of the work, because it's just too big to do this in isolation.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny that you mentioned that, because I'm thinking back to to the teachers that I've mentored that are in their first couple of years, and when I start the very first meeting with them, I say to them, "We're here to learn together. Yeah, I'm going to learn from you. You're going to learn from me." And then when you learn from them, you try to spotlight them. I had a teacher that had an awesome technique that was very different from the rest of the department that I was leading, and I had this person speak to an organization and present it in an organization over the county. And it was her second year teaching, and she didn't expect that to happen. And she was like, why are you supporting me in this? I'm like, because you have a gift. You need to give this to people, and so I mean, it's tremendous. And I've learned so much from her. And I hope she learned a little bit from me too. But it's awesome to see and support our teachers as they move forward. And you're talking earlier too about output. A lot of times we talk about how we want to see teachers, or we want to see leaders to have an output, and how much is out there. So is there a time that you may have seen somebody that believed their worth was about what they're putting out? And then how did you help them kind of unlearn that or think differently about that?
When you say putting out in terms of productivity, putting out or things that they're
Right.
sharing, you're
Right,
talking about?
like
I see.
productivity, and
Okay.
yeah, and or energy.
Energy. Yes. So, of course, I mean, I think we see that all the time with educators. I've never met an educator who didn't have the best interests of kids at the heart of what they do. Listen, I think of it as this. I always use this analogy or metaphor. I say it's like going to a buffet, right? You have your plate and you fill it with all the foods you love. And then you see this really cool breakfast burrito. And you're like, ooh, I don't have room for that on my plate. I already filled it with the eggs and the bacon and the sausage
Right.
and
There's always
everything
that.
that I like, right? And
Right.
then
There's
you
always
see
that good thing at the end, right? Always the
yeah,
good
you
thing
see
at
a
the
good
end.
thing at the end. You're like, I don't have room on my plate for that. And then if I put it on top of my plate, the burrito is going to get soggy. It's not really good. There's too much. Everything's falling off, right? Think
Right.
about, so use that now. So we have to remove something from the plate, right? We can't add it to that particular plate, or you have to get another plate. But that's a lot to bring to the table, 2 plates,
Right.
right? Like
Right.
there's
And
like
you
nothing
always
left
look,
for me.
you look at that person with the two plates. You're like, oh man, they
I
couldn't
know.
make a decision.
I know, but that's when things start getting a little stressful, because then you have to figure out, well, I have 2 people sitting next to me. I can't fit this plate anywhere on the table. So, right. But it's a good analogy to use for education, right?
Right.
We have so many things on our plate. Teachers are not hungry. They're not asking for more
Right.
on
No.
their plates,
Right. And we always keep giving them more.
Right.
And
So I think continuous conversation that we're always having, no matter where we are in education, is, we can't add to the plate. So what can we take away? How can we look at the time in our day, or the time that we have to teach this lesson, or the time that we have to facilitate this PD? And what is going to be most useful? So thinking about our audience, right? So if it's about the kids and we're teaching a lesson for kids, what's going to yield the strongest student outcomes for this lesson, right? What do you have? So talk about overdoing it. I've had educators trying to address too many standards in one lesson. They'll come and say, well, I have these 10 standards. And I'm like, no, but we only really need like 2 or 3 at the heart of your lesson. What do you want students to know and to be able to do at the end of this lesson? So you have a couple of standards, right? You have your learning target. That's very, very clear. You have your learning activity, where you're giving kids different pathways to learn and show their learning. And what is your assessment? How do you know that students have learned? I like formulas like that, to have those types of conversation, because I think it keeps things focused, and it avoids the burnout, as you're saying, or putting out too much or trying to do too much. If we're talking about teachers, and if they're or leaders who are facilitating a PD, it's the same thing. I just facilitated a big workshop this summer for my district, and I had teachers and administrators lead a lot of those workshops, because, like we were saying before, you want to distribute that leadership, you want to see the gifts in others, and you want to highlight the work they're doing so that you cross-pollinate those ideas. But the big question I was getting as they were preparing for this day is, Lauren, I have this activity, here's my slide deck, what do you think? What do you, and I was giving everyone feedback. I said, this is awesome. I said, but these are like 2 or 3 sessions you have here. I said, focus on one thing. What do you want teachers to know and be able to do? What's one practice that they can implement tomorrow in their classrooms and get really excited about, right? That they feel is accessible, that they feel is practical. So when you're saying, how do we prevent, putting out too much? It's, what are we doing and why are we doing it? And how are we going to get there? Making it feel doable, making it feel accessible. And just like I was questioning, I use that questioning technique, which is really a coaching move. And I write a lot about that, is I always coach people to see, what is it that we want out of this, right? Most of the time, if people are feeling overwhelmed and they feel like they're putting out too much, questioning, right? Okay, let's talk about this a little bit. Why do you think you feel that way? What's going on? People can get to the heart of their obstacles very, very quickly. They just need somebody to help guide them a little bit, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. It's funny because one of the pieces of advice that I talk about regularly with my teachers is, whenever the state comes out with something new, we joke. It's like, well, the state's giving us all this new stuff. What are we taking away? And it's something that we as leaders have to really think about, is that balance. So we want teachers to learn new things, but those new things probably should be replacing things. And like you said earlier, we have tons of new technologies, tons of new strategies, tons of new things that are out there. And AI is another thing that we could talk hours about that. But like, what are we taking away, or what are we like taking off that plate? So we don't want to walk around with, oh, we got to get a third plate now. So that's
yeah, exactly. We can't. We have to do one plate at a time,
Right,
because we
right.
want to have conversations at our table that we bring the plate to. And if we have too many plates, it takes away from the experience,
I know.
being together.
Right. It reminds me. So like when Kim and I go to my wife and I, we go to a wedding, it's like, okay, you grab a plate, I grab a plate, and then I'll grab this table, you grab that table, and then we'll grab a
Yes.
mishmash of things.
I know.
And then we'll come together. It's like, so Kim and I are like team teaching, if you will, to be able to try all the things, but
Yeah.
but it's funny how that is. In education, we keep throwing things at people, and I think it's our job as leaders to be like, okay, whoa, let's take a pause for a second, and what's important, what are you good good at, and let's make sure that our kids are at the heart of everything that we're doing. So that's awesome. So I'm going to move forward quickly to our RW rapid fire questions because we're getting towards our 25-minute mark here. So I want to keep it moving. So you ready for these rapid fire questions, Lauren?
Okay, I think
Uh,
I'm ready. I'm not always good at these, but okay, but we'll try.
all right. So here we go. Number one. So there's three of them. So number one, would you rather mentor a perfectionist CEO or a people-pleasing manager?
I thought about this one. I'm going to go with people-pleasing manager, but I'm going to explain why.
Okay,
So
great.
I have learned that when we lead with empathy, it could be really easy to overextend ourselves in the name of keeping peace. So growth all begins with discomfort, right? And we have to set some boundaries and we have to trust our own voice. And as somebody who leads with a coaching mindset, I strongly believe in that. I believe in helping leaders shift from needing to be everything to everyone to understanding that not everything is tied to approval, but it has to be tied to purpose, right? So my job would be to help that manager turn down the noise of outside expectations and turn up the volume of what is their why. And that's where the sustainable leadership begins. So I think you can shift someone from being people pleasing.
Awesome. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Uh, awesome. So here, number two, what's the most toxic productivity advice you've heard?
Keep pushing. Rest is earned.
Yes.
I don't
Oh,
like I don't like that. Rest isn't something to earn. It's something we need for sure. To fully show up
yes.
for ourselves and for others, we
Right.
need rest.
Yes, we always put ourselves second, and that's the problem with leadership. We're putting everybody else forward, putting everyone else first, and we need to think about ourselves and our family. And as a leader, I always say to the people I lead, family first, family first. So finally, would you do a coffee chat or a walking meeting?
Although I love my coffee and I have
Same here.
the leader inside mug right here.
I love it. That's awesome.
I'm going to say the walking meeting. And the reason for that is that I think when you're moving side by side with somebody, it invites collaboration in a different way. It softens any type of hierarchy and it mirrors how I see coaching. I'm working alongside of you. Let's take this journey together. Let's take this path together. Let's walk. So some of the most powerful conversations I've had have been in the hallways where I'm walking side by side with someone. It's like a quick conversation, but your endorphins are going too, because walking is such a great mindful activity. We don't even realize that when moving is a great way to get us thinking and connecting all the dots. A little neuroscience is when we're in focus mode and we're taking information in and consuming when we're sitting, we can get on overload. But when we're moving, we're in diffuse mode. We're connecting all the dots. It's like a path forward, walking together.
Yeah, 100%. I think I can empathize with that. I've had some great conversations walking through the hallways, and as you were saying those things, it reminds me of how a lot of times people are like, come to the office, and sit and have, and how that feels. I try to have all of my meetings with the people I lead in their space or in the hallways because I never want to have that come to my office feeling. It's all about growing and learning together. So I love that. So thank you so much for sharing. So here's my mic drop closer, if you will. So you ready for here we go. Finish this sentence. A great mentor doesn't give answers. They give dot dot dot.
They ask questions.
Ah, love that. Yes. Just
Mhm.
because we're always learning alongside the people that we are leading. I love that, love that, love that. So thank you so much, Lauren. I really, really do appreciate you being here. I'll just give you a moment to say any final words that you'd like to share with the audience. And I love working with you. I love being friends with you. It's a fantastic relationship, and you are a wonderful leader. And I've seen you grow so much, and I'm so proud of the work and the work that you've done in your books and your writing. You're a person that I aspire to be. It's truly you're amazing. So, any
Thank you,
final words?
Rob.
Yeah.
The feeling is mutual. My final words are that teaching is a calling, leading is a calling. It's not just something you do. It's a lifelong commitment to shaping the hearts and minds of those we serve. And I'm here today to say thank you to all of our educators, to all of our leaders, to everybody who is in education, keeping kids at the center of decision making. Thank you for all you do. We need you. Your work is important, and we appreciate you.
Thank you, Lauren. Thanks again for joining us on Mentoring Moments, and I will see you soon.